Welcome to the Cannabis Packaging Show, the world's first cannabis packaging show. I'm excited to be here with you to talk about New York State, and everything related to packaging in New York State. We're here to bring you an update given the new regulations that we've found from 12/19. We're going to talk about sustainable packaging and just bring you up to speed. We're going to do the show periodically this year. We're going to call it the New York Show as part of the Cannabis Packaging Show, and we might post this on the Sustainable Packaging Show podcast if it relates just to sustainability. So I'm here with Raf. Raf, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being on today.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, awesome. So the agenda today, we're going to talk about some updates to the regs. Again, if you checked out a few of the episodes we did last year, talking about the regs as they're being drafted and as they're being written, sort of in real time. We're trying to figure out as New York State what regs ultimately will make sense. Is that a fair assessment that right now we're in this process, sort of this we're on this journey to create what the regs will ultimately be, and they're still somewhat in flux, as we'll talk about in a minute? Is that a fair statement?
Definitely. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So let's get into the regs a little bit, and then we'll also talk about what we call the business case to sustainable packaging. I want to make this a productive and useful episode for any New York license holder who's thinking about their packaging. We're not going to go through everything, but I want to go through enough just to sort of give our insight. We've been in the cannabis packaging business over 5 years, and I think we can take what we've learned. We've got an audience in the room, the live audience. We can take what we've learned and we can share some of that with you. So let's jump right in. So we're looking at the packaging and labeling and marketing advertising guidelines for adult use licenses. Raf, I'm going to read it, and then you can sort of, I'll read a blurb, and then you can see if there's anything that we want to chime in. So right off the bat, the Cannabis Control Board has proposed packaging, labeling, marketing, and advertising PLMA regulations, which are not yet effective. So that's the first statement. So how are we to read this? This is not yet effective, but then later it goes in and says that these regulations are required by licenses to become eligible for transition from from their non-conditional license. And second, if they're not in compliance, they risk their license being canceled. So how are we to think about the state of these regulations? This is not legal advice. It's not intended as legal advice. We're just involved in the market, which is why we're talking about this, but please run all this by your own attorneys. How do you answer my question?
So what I would say is that the regulations, the DNA is established, and we've gone through, and the OCM, the Office of Cannabis Management for New York, has gone through several periods of revisions. They publish those revisions on their website, and then they open them up to a public commenting period. And we are now in another commenting period for these regulations, which is a 45-day commenting period for packaging regulations.
Okay.
That window closes at the end of January. So with every revision, those revisions, these regulations right now are enforceable for the dispensaries that are open, but they are being revised, and we're getting closer and closer to the final regulations.
Okay, so with each step of the way, there's revisions happening, but they're also saying this is what needs to be followed if you're a processor, if you're a cultivator, if you're a dispensary today, but these could continue to change with time. They could continue to be modified with time.
Yes, and I would expect them to change a little bit.
Okay, got it. So that's point number one that I want to say. So the first thing on page number 4, it looks like there's an annual report where we're reporting, and this is similar. If you haven't downloaded the guide to sustainable packaging in New York, you can email WOW at contemplepackaging.com. We put together a guide covering the regs as they were on 11/21/22 and some compliant options that meet those regs that are sustainable. You're going to learn in a minute that there's a grace period that's put in place where you don't need to go to sustainable packaging quite yet, but we still think it's good to get ahead of the game and know what's happening. So if you want to download the guide that shows the regs as of 11/21/22 and also some options that are sustainable that would meet those regs, email WOW at contemplepackaging.com. So this reporting requirement is still there, and it shall begin 1 year after the date the license is issued. So it sounds like even active right now, there's still this reporting requirement where you're going to show the total amount of packaging material by weight, sold, offered for sale. You need to talk about the number of refillable containers used if you're doing a refillable. Anything on this on this reporting requirement that you have insight on?
I think a big takeaway from this is that it is not, beyond these bullet points, it is not determined, and it is up to the license holder in terms of what additional content or whatever their plan for sustainability is.
Okay, got it. Then we move through some definitions. One thing that I highlighted here is post-consumer recycled content, which we're going to get to in a minute as the biggest thing that people need to know about. But that does not include post-industrial content. So we're talking about post-consumer, meaning something went into the blue bin as a consumer and gets turned into a new product, versus post-industrial is in a factory like Contempo, our manufacturing plant. We take content and we reuse it, and that's post-industrial content, but that's something a little bit different. So it's got to be post-consumer recycled. I should say we use the scrap from the manufacturing process is more post-industrial versus post-consumer stuff that went through the blue bin. So it sounds like that's a requirement there. Not related to sustainability, but needing everything to be CR certified, which is a must, and needing a certificate on hand per the Poison Prevention Control Act. I'm just going to read through a little bit, and then where it's relevant, I'll ask for you to chime in. Retail packaging minimum standards. All retail packages must be child-resistant, tamper-evident, and fully enclose the product. Do you know what that means? I mean, we can guess, but fully enclose the product. Do you think there's not like a vape cartridge that's sort of visible, or that with like a cutout window, or what do you think that means, fully enclose the product?
I think that the primary purpose of that is to prevent any type of atmospheric degradation of the cannabinoids themselves.
Okay.
So to prevent UV exposure would be a component of that, the intention.
Okay, got it. If the packaging contains multiple servings, the package must be resealable. And this is a retail package is required. A marketing layer is optional. So we'll get into that in a second. That one, I think, I'd be curious about your opinion. If the package contains multiple servings, the package must be resealable. We've had experience, this is going back to maybe 2018. We were just, the Canada market was just coming online. I don't know if that was 18 or 19, I'm forgetting, but right when Canada was coming online, we were talking to two of the largest companies in Canada. And we had a product, the lock-in card. It's a trap blister card that you know about, that's child-resistant certified. And I got our first PO. It was a large, I think it was over $250,000 for the lock-in card. But you cut that with a scissor or you tear it open. It's single-use CR. It's not multi-use. And that company had deemed, they said, oh, sorry, we actually can't move forward with this. Our compliance said that vapes and cartridges are not single. It's not, there are multiple servings. Then a bigger company than them, literally in the top 2 or 3, purchased the same product, saying it could be, vapes. It's just sort of a one and done. It's fine and it's compliant. So that's an interesting point I just want to share. Like, how are we going to view vapes as single serving versus multi-serving from the perspective of packaging? Perhaps that's not been thought about, but I want to see if you have any insight or thoughts on maybe how that should be handled, even if that hasn't been discussed yet.
Well, I think that the intention there is to preserve the cannabinoids part of it, and then also to prevent any type of exposure to people who are under 21.
I think that's more the point. It's the child-resistant portion. Is there a risk that a 4-year-old could get into this, and do you need to put the product back into the child-resistant package?
Yes.
So it's interesting. We'll see how maybe that's something that we could ask for clarity on. That could be clarified. Where do vapes fall in, and how does the OCM look at vapes and carts as it relates to the need to have multi-use CR? Because that's actually been something historically with the regs that hasn't been entirely clear from state to state. Can't be attractive to individuals under 21. Okay, now let's get to page 11. This is probably the most important point, because New York has been known. It's the third person in the room. I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. We're just sort of talking through the regs a little bit. New York is known right now throughout the industry as sort of a leader in sustainable packaging, as the state that's saying, enough is enough. It has to go in the regs. We got to define it. We're serious about this. And there's a lot happening, reusability programs and all sorts of things. But now we read in this section, and I think this is actually a positive thing, if done correctly, that there's a grace period here. So cannabis product packaging cannot be made out of plastic unless containing a minimum 25% post-consumer recycled content, period. Next sentence is even more important. Licensees must comply with this requirement by January 1st, 2024, unless otherwise authorized by the board. So it sounds like there is this requirement for 25%, but you have a year to comply. So frankly, you can do anything leading up until January 1st, 2024. Am I reading this correctly?
100%. And what I would say is that there's a bit of ambiguity in the language that I think is definitely worth discussing.
Okay. What do you see as potential ambiguity that maybe we could, not that we're going to add clarity, but we could ask for clarity on?
So in the one hand, you have some absolute language, right? In the first sentence, it says that the cannabis product packaging cannot be made of any plastic unless that plastic contains a minimum of 25% post-consumer recycled content. So that's pretty stark absolute language. Next sentence is, however, you must comply, absolute, but then you have until January 1st of 2024. So I think it's we're stating that in this time frame, and I think the intention of these regulations in this revision was to allow license holders and processors time to learn about different sustainable packaging solutions that they want. So they could learn all the technologies, they could learn all the materials, but there is this 1 year period, I guess it's a little bit below 1 year now, where a license holder can choose something that does not hit this point.
Right. I think it's also they wanted to get the program off the ground, right?
Yes.
So it's like the initial people that are getting started are critical to getting the program started, to, getting the New York market online. So adding this additional barrier, they probably just deemed, hey, this might be too much to be asking of people. So let's, taper it down a little bit and give a little bit more time. Then there's this FAQ. I don't know if there's anything else here, but let's just read it. What must my packaging be made of? Will the office certify my packaging materials as allowable? At this time, the only requirement pertaining to material composition of cannabis product packaging is that the cannabis product packaging cannot be made of any plastic unless that plastic contains a minimum of 25% recycled content. Licensees must comply by January 1st, unless otherwise authorized. Please note, this requirement applies to all cannabis product packaging, including exit packages, and is not limited to the product's retail packaging. The board and office highly encourage licensees to choose materials in their product packaging that have a minimum environmental impact, and encourage licensees to incentivize recyclable product packaging and packaging reuse. Licensees' annual reporting on packaging and materials will be used to help future policies related to cannabis product packaging sustainability. The office does not certify certain packages for licensees at this time. Okay, so we get back to that absolute language and then that sort of tapering it back, saying we have until 24. Anything else you'd like to add here in this section?
I would just say that the tide or the current is going in a direction of having New York lead the country in this area. So I would say that it is in everyone's best interest, and we can get into some evidence to support it about that. If a license holder needs, let's say, 10,000 plastic jars or bags right now, then great. We have to help them. But long term, it's in everyone's interest to go sustainable.
Right, and I think we'll talk about it in a moment. We'll jump into it right now, because I don't want to bore our audience too much with the regs, right? We got our studio audience, they're picking at their eyes and they're looking, hopefully the people who this is relevant for find it interesting, but we're trying to bring value to you guys to talk this through a little bit. So why should someone go sustainable now is the question, because a lot of people for a long time, I've been saying, and I feel so strongly about this still, that sustainable packaging, it has to be about it being good for business. It can't just be about it being good for the planet. And now sometimes I almost find myself swinging the other way where I'm like, hey, I'm talking so much about the business case. Do you know how it's actually important to take care of the planet? But the business case for sustainable packaging to me has been, and this is through like conversations with people that I should maybe bring on the show eventually that put some of these thoughts in my mind. Obviously, the consumer side of things, right? Consumers appreciating it, consumers saying, I'm not buying that product if it's wrapped in plastic. If you want my business, which every company in the world cares about, you want to grow your revenue, you need to do this. The next layer, which I didn't see originally, was employee retention. People saying, one large MSO said, the reason I'm into sustainable packaging right now, because I know my people aren't going to want to work for me very long if I'm wrapping all my products in plastic. And I said, one better, your bud tenders might promote the brands that are in sustainable packaging, and we know that's a big way of how cannabis products are sold. So consumers, employees, and then the third one, I was at Benzinga, Miami, and an investor came to me and said, I'm interested in forming a relationship. I said, great. They said, because I'm not investing in products that are wrapped in plastic any longer. I want to invest only in products that are being thoughtful about their packaging. So to me, the business use for sustainable packaging, and the thing that you bring along, Raf, is evidence-based and data and the analytical, which I want to talk about, but I'd love to get your perspective because we've talked about this at length before. The idea that, okay, revenue, employees who create the revenue, and investors who can cash flow the ability to get the revenue, all of them are tied to sustainable packaging. So this is no longer just this, fluff thing that, those are those eco people. No, this is real business that everyone should be thinking about. That to me is the business use for sustainable packaging. Anything to add to that? And then also I would love for you to give some data maybe that you've gathered to back up some of those claims so that someone who's watching who you don't need to move to sustainable packaging until January 2024, but why would it be good for them to do it? I'll just hand it over to you. What would you say to that?
Well, I think I'll go back and I'll just say this. I'm of the school of thought which says that the most powerful force, the most powerful market force in the world is the U.S. consumer. And on the one hand, you have the U.S. consumer based on age, which is increasingly applying a premium and voting with their wallets for sustainability. The evidence there is that products or companies sustainably, and I'm just reading right here, this is an HBS report, sustainability marketed branded products have a price premium of 28% versus their conventionally marketed branded counterparts. 28%.
That's a large number.
And that's across all products. And so one could say, well, does that really apply to something like cannabis? I would say that if you're looking at and how that applies to everything, I think when you get into, let's say, non-durable goods like soap, and that margin applies, that's a really mature industry. So if you have that pricing differentiation for sustainable in soap that's really mature, it's going to apply here to cannabis. And so consumers they're going to demand it. 45% of millennials will drop a brand if they find out it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And then 75% of millennials are willing to pay more for a product that's marketed and is sustainable than its counterpart that is not.
So I'll chime in and then I'll let you continue with more stats, but just another experience. You have these, I feel like, random experiences where things pop up, and maybe for example, we went to a trade show in Chicago, and the show was it was a little bit slow, a little, sometimes the trade shows are hit or miss, but one of the highlights was, I'm remembering a guy, he came to the booth and he said, what do you guys have for sustainable packaging? I said, we have tons of options for sustainable. Come on in. He was actually not even looking to buy, but just excited, and it was super slow. So he said, I only buy products that are packaged sustainably. I said, wonderful. I said, what makes you do that? He said, well, sustainability is so important, and it's about the future of the world, and we got to be thinking about this, and we got to be taking it seriously. I said, great. I said, when you look at sustainability, do you just look at the packaging itself, or do you look at the company behind the packaging? And he said a statement that at first caught me a little off guard, but I think it's true for most people. He said, if the company cared enough to go sustainable with their packaging, I assume that it's within their values and that they're sustainable in other ways. And I realized that is not probably a true statement in all cases, not universally true, but probably true in a lot of cases, and how the consumer is thinking, that by moving to sustainable packaging, you're positioning yourself as sustainable in the mind of the consumer. And to me, I would say also to a critic who would say, oh, if the packaging is sustainable but nothing else, this is such a horrible thing. I would say, listen, Mr. Critic, thanks for your opinion. We appreciate it. And at the same time, this is the first step towards them becoming sustainable. Give them a little bit of time for them to make the shift rather than trying to knock them down that, hey, they took a step one. Let's celebrate that they took the step one rather than criticizing them that they didn't take the next 5 or 6 steps. So any thoughts on that? It was just sort of a relevant story I wanted to throw in there.
I think in this day and age of social media and unboxing, I think the sustainability, what consumers want is they want to see that in the storytelling and have it be part of the ethos and the DNA of the brand. And once they see that, then you know what, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. Once they see that mindset, that commitment to it, I think consumers are going to be forgiving. It's when a company is not, that's a different story.
Right, when they haven't even taken any steps.
Yeah.
As you know, like just like the OCM's giving time, it's like we got to give brands time, but let them start moving in the right direction. So in summary to the business case, and then I want to keep going through these regs, I would say moving now shows that you really care. And I'm not a critic either to people. You're just getting off the ground. You don't have time to wait for the lead times to go to a super custom sustainable package. I understand that too. But if you can find a way to move now, you are saying to the consumer, I really care, and that's why I'm doing this. Versus if you do it because you have to in January, it's not that you can't still wow people with great packaging, but you did it when you had to instead of doing it because you were free to do so and you chose to do so. I think that's a powerful statement. What do you think? Do you think that's powerful, or do you think consumers won't really even realize that?
Oh, I agree with it 100%. And if you want bottom line KPI, all that jazz evidence, products that are marketed as sustainable grow, according to Harvard Business School, at over 500% faster than those that don't. 500%
faster. To me, what are the? Go ahead.
And this goes all the way. This, you know, the one of the big things that is happening right now is the divestiture, that the divestment for pensions away from companies that are not focused on decarbonization and sustainability. That total figure, it's led by Harvard Business School and my alma mater, BU. That's $40 trillion. So to put that in perspective, the U.S. GDP right now, the whole GDP of our country is 23 trillion. So this applies to the largest institutions, the largest businesses, all the way down to the smaller ones. So again, it's just there used to be this saying, no one's going to get fired for, what was it, choosing IBM. I think that the default setting should always be there on the side of sustainability.
Right. No one's going to get fired for going sustainable.
No, you will be rewarded.
It's the right choice. It's the right, as long as you're not greenwashing and misleading the marketplace. But if you're doing genuine sustainable thinking, which is what we promote, then I think it is a safe bet. I don't see somebody losing by making that decision. All right, let's get back to the regs. That's why we came here today, right? To talk a little bit about that. All right, so we'll zip through this. I again, give us some feedback below. Is this valuable? Are you enjoying the show? New York license holders. I hope it is, because we're taking the time to do this, and we'll continue. So PPPD. The PPPD, the Principal Packaging Display Panel, this is page 12, can be any panel of the package that could be reasonably assumed to be intended to be displayed at retail. So the PPPD has to have vital information such as the THC percentage, the terpene profile, number of servings, et cetera, et cetera. They talk about minimum font sizes, things that you'll see in a lot of cannabis states. Again, this is not legal advice. Please have your own legal counsel reviewing all of this. 6-point size, the universal cannabis symbol in the state of New York. Okay. Anything else related to, again, we talk a lot about sustainability, but anything else just related to packaging in general in the regs that we want to highlight? You can't use bright neon colors or things that'll be attractive to people under the age of 18. Page 18 has something here, Raf. Conditional licenses are valid for up to 2 years, at which time, if a licensee is found to be in good standing with the office, i.e., follow these regs, you still have to. The 1 year window, it's important, is for the 25% recycled content. Before that clicks in, you still need to do the other stuff. You can't be like, oh, I'm not making my packaging tamper evident. I thought I had a 1 year window. No, you still need to follow everything else in these regs. So to be in good standing, if a licensee is found to be in good standing, the licensee shall apply for and receive a standard license. At that time, the licensee will be required to submit an environmental sustainability product packaging plan to the border office, which you see in the state of New Jersey right now. They have similar language where when the person applies, they have to put together some sort of environmental impact plan. Such plans may include, but are not limited to, reuse strategies, collecting reusable cannabis packaging, such components to be sanitized or refilled or reused as cannabis packaging, collection or redemption of batteries, cartridges, and vape pens, or sustainable packaging strategies that use non-plastic, compostable, or recycling packaging materials, or packaging materials exceeding 25% post-consumer recycled content. So this is some of the same language from the 11/21/22 guide that we put together in regs. Reusable packaging. Why don't you take it away, all right? I'm tired of reading too many regs here. Go ahead.
So, we were just talking about how sustainability, while in many ways it is a discretionary choice right now, there's only evidence in support of committing to sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And right here is a great example. And this part of the regs on page 18 talks about how normally, for everything outside of sustainability, specifically everything outside of sustainable packaging, there cannot be any loyalty program that a dispensary has. And the spirit of that is because they don't want to encourage free use. But if reusability is part of your sustainability program for packaging, you can have a loyalty program. There can be
I saw that a little bit later on.
Yep. And so I think it's just one more example of why it's so important to make it a part of a company's business and their DNA right away.
Right. Yeah. You could maybe move to a loyalty program right off the bat. To me, the loyalty programs almost seem like there's like this handy little checklist at the back, which is
Actually,
cool
right, it's later
that they did this. But you're giving me a license to speed through all of this stuff, which I appreciate. Okay. So a little checklist: does not promote price reductions unless part of a sustainability program or otherwise authorized by the office or board. So that almost reminds me of, like, I think it's Whole Foods. Oh, bring your reusable packaging back and get 5 cents off your next order. Or bring back your flower jar to be sanitized and reused, and we'll give you 10% off your next order when you bring that flower package in. So you basically give an incentive also. I get there's a lot of infrastructure that's involved with this, especially considering there's no vertical integration at this point, right? There's no license, there's no retail and process, or retail and cultivation. Or can you have two of the three, or no? Can you own retail and product?
Just if you're medical.
Just if you're medical, yeah. But on the adult use side, you can't. So there's some infrastructure involved there. But it sounds like they're allowing for, you can give a price incentive or promotion if it's tied to sustainability in some way.
Right.
Which is interesting. So let's say at Housing Works, just to give an example. So Housing Works still the only dispensary that's live, right?
Right now, yes.
So let's
maybe the second one open, but it's one or two.
One or two. So let's say a brand, one of the big brands, Heirloom, let's say, that got into Housing Works. They were the first vape, I think, sold, and they made New York history. So let's say they partner with Housing Works, and they use, this is just an idea. This is obviously a small vape cartridge display that Cannabis Specialty Packaging made for one of our larger clients. so let's say it's not this big, but it's a super tall one. You've seen this. I remember shopping. I was in the Rentham outlets in Massachusetts, and there was a beauty store. I forgot which one, some Japanese beauty store. They had these large corrugate drop bins. So picture this times 100, the size of it, empty. And on the side of it, the to from shipping label was already established and was already on there. So what happens is the customers are incentivized to bring their packaging back in. This is more just like a feel-good recycling program that when you buy from us, we take the responsibility to process your packaging. So I could imagine they're not vertically integrated. You don't own the retail and the processor, but the processor could say, I'm going to put one of these, Housing Works, you're my partner, I'm going to put one of these in the store. The consumer brings the product in, the packaging back in, so they know that they're maybe it's part of a reuse program. There's then a shipping label on it. As I'm slamming it, there's a shipping label on it that then gets sent to the store or the facility that's going to do the sterilization. So maybe it's a little more hands off and a little more doable. That's sort of an idea. I'm just spitfiring. What do you think about it? Should some of our friends over here take advantage of it, or am I going crazy over here?
I agree. I think the spirit of it, or the template, was the food business, so that if you could go into a restaurant, you eat, then those dishes go back and they get sterilized. If it works in that model, it should work with cannabis. Mm-hmm. And so I think I would add that I would expect to see more definition around this in the next version of regs.
Okay. But I'm saying more the idea that could the reusable become an incentive? Bring your jar back and you're going to get X discount. I mean, Housing Works, the way those lines looked when, I don't know what it looks like today, but when it opened, I don't know if people would even deal with this. But as the market stabilizes, right, every market cools down. That's another thing that we can learn from the West Coast. We can learn from Massachusetts. We can learn from every market. Every market will eventually cool down. And the great days in the beginning, where if you open your doors, you're going to sell a lot of product, that doesn't last forever. And the sooner we can think about acting as a traditional business and brand, which needs to differentiate itself, the better off these companies are going to be. So I get it's maybe not something to do in week one, but introducing some of these strategies early on, or having it in the company should at least be thinking this way and not thinking the times are always going to be like this, where my numbers are great just because I can supply a product, because that will soon end. It might take a couple of years, but unfortunately that does end. And brands have really suffered who haven't had that mindset that eventually I'm going to have to differentiate myself. Anything you would add there?
I would say two things. The regulations are clearly encouraging a reusability program. They're saying you can't have a loyalty program unless it's about this.
They're really trying to incentivize people to maybe start practicing and trying and seeing how it'll work out.
And then I would just say, just imagine yourself, you're walking in Greenwich Village, or you're in on Fifth Ave. What do consumers want? I think consumers, especially in New York, are going to value brands where sustainability is a big part of it, and that extends all the way out to their packaging.
Mm-hmm. Completely.
And it's interesting. If you look at pricing around the country, you'll see the brands that do this actually are holding higher and higher price points.
Mm-hmm. Like any other business, right? Cannabis is no different. I've been saying that for 5 years. It's just a product. It's not a magic special thing that's going to follow different marketing rules. If you do these things, you can demand a price premium, just like every brand does in every other market. So the one thing I want to mention here, claims. So again, read these regs for yourself. I think it's worth the time going through. Claims about, this is page 18, claims about recyclable or recycled content must comply with 16 CFR 260, Guides for Use of Environmental Marketing Claims, also known as the Green Guides. Those are being looked at right now, the Green Guides. So just keep an eye on that. That's run by the FTC. They're looking at changing those Green Guides or modifying them. I think maybe similar to what you were explaining, there's a comment period that's opening. So, but that's just about not misleading consumers. You can't just say, make unfounded claims that, take this pill and you'll lose 50 pounds overnight. That's regulated, and there's the same thing with sustainability. There's certain things you can say. That's why on a lot of packaging you see check locally before recycling. There's certain terms in the green guides that they say like you can't mislead your average consumer into thinking something is happening that isn't. That's the spirit of it.
Right.
So let's show a few options. The other reason to get started, I want to show some tins because we've been talking to a bunch of you guys. You seem to really enjoy the tins, so I want to show them off. We have CR packaging for every cannabis product. We've been in the cannabis business over 5 years. Our parent company over 40 years, building some of the biggest brands in the world. So we know branded, differentiated packaging. Reach out, wow@contemplepackaging.com if you'd like to work together. The other reason to get started on this stuff soon is because it takes time, right? Think about if you just go to marijuana packaging, we'll say, or like one of these stock generic sites, you can get something shipped next day, and we have a stock program too. See, I'm giving a shout out to our competition. What am I doing? I'm crazy here. All right, but that's immediate stock stuff, and we can do that. But if you want custom stuff, from design to how do we want the consumer to feel, to potentially getting involved in things like video-enabled sustainable packaging, where you take your phone, you put a QR code on the packaging that links to a short 30-second video explaining the positive impact that's being made by going to the sustainable packaging. And Contempo has shown various examples of video-enabled sustainable packaging. So all this takes time. That could be a 3-month process easily to go through sustainable packaging. So, and we all know just time flies in general, right? I think everyone here can agree time flies. Flies when you're having fun, and it seems to fly when you're not having fun as well. It flies regardless. So, long story short, January 1 sounds far away, but that's actually not that far away when you talk about really doing your packaging in a great way. Anything to add there? But I'm more just making a point, but would you add anything to that before we talk about some of these tins?
I think there's zero downside to starting early.
Right. Zero downside to getting options, looking at options, thinking about which ones are right for the brand, thinking about, do we want to go with the reusable program or recyclable? Thinking about compostable. Is home compostable right for me, or do people are they really not going to home compost? Will it keep my product fresh? There's like 1,000 things that we deal with every day that sometimes it's all about customer preference too. So to start to think about what you will want to ultimately do with your packaging come January, knowing you're going to want to be placing orders in Q3, Q4 for that, we really don't have that much time. Just a sidebar. Okay, so let's talk about tins. We've got a lot of interest in tins for good reason. Give me your reasons. Tin is sustainable because. Why do people love tin as a packaging option?
The one that is always my go-to is the infinite recyclability.
Infinitely recyclable, right? Plastic can't say that. Paper can't say that. They disintegrate over time. But
argue
tin
that
is,
for glass too.
Yeah, infinitely recyclable. So that's the main thing. And I think tin's also very powerful when we talk about reuse programs as well. The fact that plastic is probably going to chip over time. It might not be. I get in the regs they say you can inspect things, but maybe it's
visually,
not the best.
You can inspect visually, right?
Visually, right? So I think tin might hold better over time in a reuse program. And the other thing I like about our tins is that the majority of them, the locking tins and our best-selling version of the round tin, has no plastic parts involved in it. So it's a zero plastic. So naturally, that's a sustainability story, just as a movement away from the plastic. Per that investor I talked about that I spoke to at Benzinga, who said, I'm not investing in products that are packaged in plastic. So that's a positive there, just no plastic. But also, no plastic means it's more recyclable. It's higher. There's a higher chance of it being recycled. We've talked about this on the podcast, the Sustainable Packaging Show, that you want your packaging, whenever possible, to be mono material, one material. When you start, there's certain CR tins that start mixing plastic in their CR opening mechanisms. And what you're doing is you're making the product either unrecyclable or very difficult to recycle, because that product is going to go it's going to go from your blue bin to the MRF, the material recovery facility. And that facility then sorts. I think this is the same in every state, and you can tell me if we should actually talk to the MRF about this in New York just to confirm, sorts it into different piles. The tin is here, the plastic's here, the paper's here. So if your tin has plastic in it, you're contaminating the tin pile and ruining that material. So you want to stick to monomaterial. Anything you would add, or feel free to correct if there's anything that's not applicable to New York.
A big part of this is then what can the MRF do with that material? Because it can become a profit center for reselling.
That's the whole business. A MRF is a business.
Right.
It's not some nonprofit, oh, we want to save the world, let's create this big thing. They take product and they sell product. And if it's junk, it's probably going to go to the landfill. That tin that you thought with the plastic parts, oh, I'm being so sustainable, you feel good. Well, those plastic parts, I'm not saying this definitively, but I think there's a high probability that that would be seen as contamination, and they might not be recycling that product. That product might die in the landfill and never biodegrade because it's tin.
And I think it's important to know that at least it was a shock for me when I started going to MRFs was how many human hands are actually doing the sorting.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
And when I observed it, and we have videos to support this, the material that they always would toss was plastic. You would never see tin or aluminum being tossed because of how profitable it is.
Right. Okay. I think there's a lot of nuance in that we could get into in a future episode as well about that. So different kinds of tins. We have our all metal round
Those are
tin,
great.
all metal round tin with CR certified, as you can see. Okay, sort of a nice friction fit. You twist this off, and it has a metal plug here as well. Great for flour, great for gummies, all metal, CR certified, zero plastic. Sort of a premium luxury opening experience. Beautiful embossings. This is just an absolutely beautiful product that will differentiate you greatly from someone using a Mylar bag. Oh, I got to get to market. Let me use a Mylar bag. Okay, one gummies are in that, and the next set of gummies are in this. It's night and day. You're differentiating yourself. This is what the best brands in the world do. And frankly, a lot of people use Mylar bags in other industries, other food products, but I'm thinking in cannabis, the consumer, you want them to get excited about the product and the packaging and what you're doing. You want them to feel it's sustainable. New York's clearly pushing that. So I'm a big fan. Anything else on the round tin?
A couple of things. I love these for multiple reasons, but two of them are, man, that CR thing is tough.
Two of them are how well
that's
CR
good.
is.
I think one thing that's really neat is that it also can, after the gummies are consumed, this can be an ashtray, right?
That's an epic innovation right there. So whether that was gummies and now you're using it for flour later as an ashtray, or flour and literally you have a built-in ashtray into the product.
And I think in New York, where packaging, I think,
Maybe just showed up, Raph, as you're talking,
Sorry.
just so we can. No, I did the same thing, but just I'll show it. Keep
I'll let
going.
you do it. I think of all states, New York is going to prove to be the state that where packaging may matter the most. And if you go to high-end, let's say tea stores or high-end grocery stores, a lot of times you'll see, let's say, a premium tea, the highest level tea in a tin just like that. So we know consumers love it, and from a functionality and performance perspective, they're phenomenal. They're really great.
So now let's get into sort of part two. So that's a fully custom tin manufactured from nothing. This here is an example of a program that we just launched at Contempo in Providence, Rhode Island. We have digital printing presses that will print within 2 to 3 weeks a beautiful custom package. The products are black and white. We're just establishing our inventory levels right now for this program. It's something we launched in Q4 with great success, and I think it applies perfectly to New York. People who are concerned about, are the regs going to change? I don't want to get stuck with a bunch of packaging I can't use. Having that flexibility and nimbleness and being able to, oh my gosh, this store open, I need to get to market. Just the market's just a lot of moving pieces right now and sort of uncertainty, so the ability to be nimble and quick is important. So this would be an example, black or white, and then the digital printing presses can actually print 4 color. This is just a super simple design, but I'm going to actually, you know what, why don't you bring these up just so I can talk, and I'm not going to pull away. So those can be printed 2 to 3 weeks, and we've done some really interesting designs with this. You can do it in a way where the white or the black is very tasteful, so you can have the round tin, or you can have the rectangular locking tin. Right now we have a large stock in this product. We're just focusing in this one SKU. That's more of a test market that we're doing. But if you're interested, you like the round tin, and you said, hey, I think this could be a good fit, we want to work with New York companies for many years to come. We know that it's all about long-term relationships. That's how the fashion business was built, that my parents started. It was all about long-term relationships. So frankly, it's going to be the same thing, and we want to know your needs and understand how to adapt to the needs of the market. So that's sort of I call it generic is generic. That's sort of semi-custom. We can digitally print on the top and the bottom. Now let's look at some totally custom. This is another option of, this one's digitally printed as well. So you could see this one's on silver, but you can print top and the bottom, the entire tin. Examples of fully custom. This could be we have multiple sizes of this too. So I'm just gonna show some options off. So what do you think about, actually maybe you can show. So these are pre-roll tins. That's a board insert there. Here's that one's blank. Where's the one? There's the one with a metal insert. So this one's super sustainable because this brand actually did not print their logo on the front. They actually used an embossing to print their logo, and they have the metal insert. So this is one of the most beautiful tins I think we've done. Okay, so you can see all examples of our packaging. You can see we've done these for vape cartridges as well. Vape carts, we have these sort of deeper sizes for gummies. So there's all sorts of things that we can do with tin. And you could have your flour and your pre-rolls all in tin. You could have your gummies all in tin. You could, obviously, Contempo does a lot more than just tin. Folding boxes. We could do hemp boxes, hemp labels. We could... when you need plastic, we can do ocean-bound plastic. So I think everything we've done around sustainability, the timing is perfect to help New York companies. We can do sleeves as well if you want to put a sleeve on for a different flavor. So again, this is really about the regs, but we also want to show a little bit about our capabilities too. This has gone on. This has been quite an episode here, but I think we've covered a lot, and I hope it's valuable for, again, the third person in the room who might be saying, what's happening with this whole packaging thing? When do I need to get to work on my packaging? I'm thinking about going sustainable, but I'm not sure if I should. Should I do it? Some discussion about the regs. Anything else? How do we, let's close, or let's start to close. What else does this third person in the room who's a New York operator, what's going to be beneficial for them to hear from us?
I may be a bit of a broken record, Al, but I would just say this. It's just the sooner that you kind of decide where sustainability is in your DNA and in your mission, to make it a full part of your company, and as part of that, to start with packaging really soon. Time flies a lot faster, and a signal that I've heard many times is, I wish I'd started this a lot earlier.
That's the difference between, going generic versus building a brand. And the downside of building a brand is it takes more time. It takes more effort and takes more energy. But it seems to me at this time, 99.9% of things in life that are good take time, take effort, take energy, and the easy route usually isn't the right route. This is also really cool. This pre-roll pack, this tin, we put a match strike on this. So we got a compartment for matches in here with a match strike, with the sustainability story, with the QR code on the back of the package. I want to just say one more time for those of you who don't know video-enabled sustainable packaging, because this is something that I really want to see happen in the New York market. We're producing videos for brands that storytell why their packaging is sustainable. Imagine for a moment, I say, if Tom's Shoes never told anyone that they were donating a pair of shoes for every pair sold, we would say they're crazy. Why are they not telling the market about something that's going to make the market love them? And we're doing the same thing with sustainable packaging when we just put in small font, when we don't tell the consumer, we think the consumer will get it. So use video-enabled sustainable packaging. We're producing these videos at Contempo. And with some of our first New York brands, we can't do this for everyone, but if you see this video and you're interested, we'll produce a video-enabled sustainable package for you for free. We'll make the video on your first SKU to test market the idea, because I think this is going to be amazing for brands. This is something that brands in every industry should do. And my vision is, why can't the New York cannabis industry be the hub where There's all these videos. Consumers are getting excited. People buy cannabis that are in other industries and say, hey, we should start doing this. Look at this. I mean, some people call New York City the center of the world. I think most people do. So this is, to me, a huge opportunity to make sustainable packaging the norm. Why I think this is going to be a landmark year for sustainable packaging to be the norm is because of what's happening in New York. So, Raph, it's been a pleasure. I really hope we brought value to the community. If you guys want to put anything in the comments, any future episodes that you want to see, any ideas, we would love that. And if you want to also drop in the comments, if you're interested in doing video-enabled sustainable packaging, just put it in the comments or email wow@contempopackaging.com. And we'll get to work together, making history, as you know, we'll all do together. Okay? Thank you very much, Raph. Thank you to the cameraman, the man behind the camera, Ed. And we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, everyone.